If you're a vibe coder, this video might save you weeks of pain because most vibe coders think they're doing everything right. Their app runs, the UI looks clean, so the project must be completed. But when it goes public, your API keys get exposed to the public. You never tested it on your phone, so half of the users just bounce away. You use weak databases like Google Sheets. You don't create scalable products which you can sell over and over again. You design a pretty UI first, then try to force a system behind it that actually gives results. So I'm going to show you 9 steps on how a vibe coder can think multidimensionally and create perfect apps which are scalable, secure, and actually provides results. Let's start with the one mistake that can put your whole project at risk, which is security. So right now you might be giving your API keys to AI and telling it to just go ahead and create an application with this, which is not the safest way to create these applications if you're doing it for a client, if you want to make these applications live on the web which people can use. So here are some ways you can use your API keys safely. Many people are using Vercel or Netlify to host their web apps, which is actually better than using some other platforms like Lovable, Replit, or Google AI Studio, because now you have full control over your apps. Vercel or Netlify helps you store these API keys in their environment variables. That means now your API keys are never showed to public and are private to you. Let me give you an example. So let's say we're creating an app on our system locally. I'll give you an example of Visual Studio Code, but you can also use Anti-Gravity. You can also use cursor.com. But let's say we have created this app on Visual Studio Code, and this has our code, this has our API keys. Okay, so because we want to make this project live, we will be pushing it into GitHub. If you don't know what GitHub means, I will be explaining it later on in this video. Please stay with me. So we will be pushing this code to GitHub, and now GitHub has our API keys, it has our code base. Now our code base lives inside GitHub, but we still want to host it. So for hosting, we will be using Vercel. So because we want to host our website on Vercel, we will be giving Vercel access to our GitHub's repository, or you could also call it our project. So we will give access of this project to Vercel, and now Vercel will make our website live on the web. So Vercel will now go into our GitHub and use this code base and our API keys. And I would not recommend anyone to use this method because right now we still have some security risks. Now let me show you how you can fully secure your API keys. So this is a prompt that I wrote for you. So basically what it does is when you're testing your application locally, it will have all the API keys stored locally on your .env file. So this file basically has all your API keys. Just for testing purposes, you will be using this env file in your local setup. But when we want to make our website live, we will use this prompt. We will give this prompt to our AI. Build this app so it never hard codes any API key. Or you could also say that remove all the API keys from my current code base. I am hosting the website in Vercel. Locally, I will be using .env files, and in production, it should automatically use Vercel environment variables. So the one that I'll be showing you later. Make sure the key is used only on the server side. So we don't have any API keys stored that we will be using from our local code base. Our GitHub will not be having any API keys. So once we have pushed this code to our GitHub, right now nobody has any API key. Okay, because we've used this prompt, we've removed all of our API keys from our local code base. GitHub now has our code. Okay, so now we want our website to be hosted on Vercel, but still remember nobody has your API keys. We'll now say that Vercel go ahead and use our repository and host our website. So our website is made live, but still nobody has our API keys. So now you'll be adding your API keys in Vercel's environment variable. Let me show you where you can find it. So once you're logged in into your Vercel account, just open any project. Let me open this one, and let's go to settings. And if you scroll down, you'll be seeing this option environment variables. So I've already stored some API keys inside. I have some SMTP host, which I'm using directly from my Vercel's environment variables. So if you want to add your API keys, just click on add environment variables and you will be seeing this option. You don't need to care about any other option other than this key and value. Inside key, you will be writing the name that is already hard coded. So here you'll be writing your API keys name, which is being used inside your code. So whenever someone wants to use that API key, environment variable will fetch that name and use its API key. So let me just add a demo API key. So let's say we're using this name in our code base. Let's copy this and let's paste it over here. Inside value, we will be adding our API key. This is a demo API key. Just paste this and click on save button. And whenever you need your API key, it will automatically recall it from Vercel's own environment variable. So now it's completely secured. Only you know where your API keys are stored and what your API keys are. Even if you don't know how to code, GitHub is something that every Vibe coder should learn, at least the basics. Because GitHub is actually where your app lives when it leaves your laptop. Let's say you've made this application on your desktop, but right now you cannot share it with anyone. Your team cannot access this code. Your history is not being saved every time you edit this code. But the thing with GitHub is your team can access your code. It can also save your history. It can save versions. For example, if I want to recall a version from 2020, 2025, July of 2024, I can do that easily on GitHub. And it can automatically update your app. So let me give you an example here. When you've pushed this code to GitHub, it basically updates your website, which is being stored inside Vercel. Let me just point this to Vercel so it becomes more clarified. Okay, so this is an application that you made on your PC and you've pushed the code to GitHub. Now GitHub has two versions, one version and two versions. If you want to recall the old version, which was made in maybe July 25th, you can also do that on GitHub, but you cannot do it on your local PC. So right now we're on version 2, which is a new version which I just pushed on GitHub. But if you want to recall the old version or even older version, which is let's say 0 version, which was on 2024, you can also do that. You can just say that GitHub, go ahead with this version. I don't This version has some bugs in it. So what GitHub will do is it will automatically update our code in Vercel. So now if we want to host our 2024 website, it will automatically update in our Vercel. Vercel is now displaying website which was made in 2024. So this is the flexibility of GitHub, and this is why every Vibe coder should learn at least the basics of GitHub. It actually lets your team have access to your code. It gives you history, and your app is automatically updated. If you look into these platforms like Lovable, every other platform has a GitHub icon. So basically, you can push your app inside GitHub. This is Lovable. This is Google AI Studio. It also has the same GitHub logo. You can push this code to GitHub. And if you go to other AI tools like Replit, you can see the same GitHub logo. You just need to understand the basics of GitHub. What is a repository, how commits work, what is a branch, what is a pull request, and all of this stuff. It's not complicated. Let me actually give you a short tutorial on how to use GitHub. So this is my GitHub. Once you're logged into your GitHub, just click on new, this green button, and from here you will be creating your new repository, or you can also call it your project. So let's name this project testing project, and you can also write a description so you know that what this project actually is for. Then we have a choose visibility. Do I want to make this project public so that everyone on the web can access my code? No, I don't want to. I usually use private version. And then you can just click on create repository, and it will create my project named testing project. Now because I've chosen private, so it will be private to me, but if you choose public, it will be public on the web. Anyone on the web can access your code. So I think you don't need to learn more than this. So this is basically it. You have now created a repository in your GitHub. Just copy this link and give it to your Visual Studio Code, whatever AI tool you're using inside. If it's Claude, just give this link to Claude and say that push my code to GitHub. That's it. It will push the code to GitHub. It might take some verifications from your end. I've seen a lot of people create these apps but never document these applications. So let's say a client comes to you that this is a project that I want, and you just send them a link to that project. That sounds very unprofessional because client is expecting what does it cost to run every month? How many API keys does it use? What tools does it need? How do I set up from start to finish? And what are the results that I will be getting from this AI app or whatever automation you're creating. So here's actually a documentation that I made for an N10 automation. So this is basically a LinkedIn posting automation. I've written what it solved. I've basically used ChatGPT to create all of this, and this document is actually very detailed. It's showing how many posts you will be doing per week using this automation. Yeah, so posts per week, 5 daily, like minutes per post. This is how many minutes you're wasting per post, and like there are a lot of details inside setup. This is how you set up, and if you're also giving some video materials with this, then that will be a bonus for the client. So this is the kind of documentation that I'm asking you guys to create. Whenever you have finished a product, just create a documentation for it. So this is actually the documentation that I'm talking about, and I want you to create a documentation for every app, every project that you're making. So whenever you send to client, you can just say that this is a document. You can also see my video tutorial how to set it up, and these are the things that I need from you. This is how much it will cost. You can just ask ChatGPT or Claude to make an extensive file like this. Of course, you can tell it this is how much it costs. This is how much I will get as my fees to set up all of this automation. The next mistake you're making as a vibe coder, you're not creating dashboards of your AI apps. Let me explain this with these two products that everybody understands, Shopify and WordPress. The reason why Shopify and WordPress became so massive isn't because it creates website, but because it gives client the access to dashboard, a place where client can edit their content, change their product prices, delete their products, add blogs, and basically control their business without calling a developer every time. Now let's compare that with what a lot of vibe coders ship. They build a beautiful front end, but the back end is just code which the client cannot understand. So if the client wants to change something inside his blog or maybe add a new blog, he will have to call the developer that all of this is code. I cannot go inside and publish my blog. So the product that you're making must be scalable. The client should have some kind of access to his business, to his product. So whatever you're building, an AI website or an AI tool for a client, you should be thinking, where is the control panel? And this leads us to the next mistake a lot of vibe coders do, designing their web app every time from scratch. If you're designing the basic things for your web app from scratch every time, then you're doing it wrong. So Claude has already released a list of MD files, or you could also call them skills that you can create. So for example, if you're creating a website from scratch, you can just tag that file. It could be a front end design skill that you can tag into your Claude, and then just say that use this principle while making the website, and it will make you a beautiful front end. You don't have to recall it again and again that this is a design that I want and these are the mistakes that you're making. So if you don't know what markdown files mean, you can just click on the link up here. I've already made a video on it. Anthropic has released a repository. So this is the repository full of skills. You can basically use algorithm art, brand guidelines, front end design. So if I click on front end design, it will have two files. This is the file that we will be using in our project. So it's called front end design skill.md. Let's read this: creative, distinctive, production grade front end interface with high design quality. So they're basically telling the AI model how to create the front end of their website, which basically has all of the principles. Anthropic basically is the company behind Cloud Code. So it's not written by an ordinary person. It's basically written by professionals. If you don't know how to use these markdown files, you can just click on the video that pop up here. If you're building AI apps, here is something you need to watch out for. Just because it works on your laptop doesn't mean it works for real users. Most people will open your AI app on their phone, a tablet, or a smaller screen with probably a slower internet. And if the layout is broken, they'll just leave. So let me show you exactly what do I mean by this. So this is an app that I made for my client. I am still working on the coloring and stuff. But what it does is it basically rebrands the images. Here you'll be writing the brand name, here you'll be pasting the logo of their brand, white logo, black logo, and here you'll be giving instructions. So if I use it on my PC, everything will be working perfectly fine. I will be seeing all of the fields. But as I change this to mobile version, the logos section disappears. And if you see down here, we're not seeing the spaces below this section. So if I click on this icon, then I will be seeing the fields that should already be visible. So this is what I mean by testing your apps on your mobile phone, tablet screen. You can basically click control shift I, and here you can just change dimensions or click on this place. This is for tablet, and if you click here, this is for laptop. This is for large laptop. This is how you can test your applications, and if it's not tested, that means it's not a fully prepared product. So the next mistake is you're using the wrong thing as a database. A lot of vibe coders store their app data in Google Sheets because it's easy. But here's what they're doing wrong. If you're building a real web app, especially the ones with users authentication, payments, or private data being stored, you cannot use Google Sheets to store them because Google Sheets is not a real database. Now let me tell you why Google Sheets is risky as a database. Because it's not designed to secure your data. Here's what can go wrong. Someone gets the link to your Google Sheets, they will have access to all of data inside that Google Sheets. So here are some options that you can use instead of Google Sheets. The first is Supabase. Supabase is basically a real database which is actually made easy for these web apps. The second option is Airtable, which feels like a spreadsheet but it's more like a database. So if you're using Google Sheets, you cannot actually create accounts for users. So let's say if a user comes into your website, you cannot log into your website using the database of Google Sheets. You need some kind of authentication. That can be done by Supabase or Airtable. If you're building an AI app that can only be sold for one client only once, here's what you're doing wrong. A lot of beginners build something that solves one person's exact problem in one specific situation. It works, right? But just for one user. You cannot scale it. You cannot sell it over and over again. This is actually called a custom job that you're doing for this client. You can't sell it again and again without rebuilding it every time. A scalable product solves a problem that a lot of people share, not just one person. So instead of asking, what does this one client need, you should be asking, what problem keeps showing up for lots of people, and can I package this in a repeatable system? Let me give you an example. Because right now I am in my aistudio.google.com. This is basically built by Gemini 3. So what this web app does, it takes your image, it takes a reference thumbnail and creates a very cool thumbnail for you. Let me show you an example here. Let me select my picture. This is my picture, and let's select a reference thumbnail. Let's do this, and let's write the reference one, because this thumbnail is getting like a lot of views, hundreds of thousands of views. Why not just create a thumbnail like this one? And this is a problem that many people have. People are just looking into thumbnails and redesigning everything on Canva or Photoshop. So this solves a problem for every creator. Let's click on generate. It might give me an accurate result. It might not, because I'm still developing the app. Let's create on generate thumbnail and let's see the result. So this is the output that it gave me, and doesn't it look amazing? Like, I'm blown away by this. Let me show you the thumbnail again. So this is the thumbnail that we just copied. Now, don't you think that people will buy this product? A lot of people will buy this product, right? So this is called a scalable product. You're now making scalable product that a lot of people want. This doesn't just solve a problem for one person, but an entire tribe. Here's something that you might be doing backward. Many people design their AI websites first, then they focus on the problem that is not bringing the results to clients. Actually start by designing the perfect app, fonts, colors, animation, all of it, spending like 10 hours on this designing stuff. Design actually matters, but the real product is the system behind it. The workflow, the logics that you're using, your automations, what output is it giving? Is it actually giving the result to client? So if you're spending 10 hours designing your web app and your system can't reliably deliver those results, then that means you didn't make a product. So here's a simple checklist that you need to follow every time you're making a web app. First is to solve the problem, add the automations and all of the technical stuff, and then you can go ahead and design your web app. So if the system is working in an ugly interface, that means you have created a product, because now everyone using AI has the advantage to design their website. Designing doesn't matter now. The thing that matters is the system behind that beautiful website, which is delivering viewing the results. This is your vibe coder checklist. Security, knowing the basics of GitHub, create documentation for whatever you're making, create beautiful dashboards. Design everything from scratch. Your web app should work on all devices. Use secure databases like Supabase or Airtable. Whatever you're making, make it scalable. Focus on the problem first. If you learned something from this video, make sure to subscribe the channel. And if you're into building with AI, you can check out the other videos on my channel. I'll see you in the next one.